All right, welcome. This is another episode of Being Well with Beth, and today we're going to talk about community with a crew of wonderful Harper folks. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, we'll start with Gerardo and tell us a little bit about what you do at Harper.
Hello, my name is Gerardo Cruz, and I'm a Spanish instructor, and this is my third year at Harper.
Kathleen?
Hi, I'm Kathleen Reynolds, and I teach in the English as a Second Language and Linguistics department at Harper, and I'm also the advisor for International Students Club and for Foundation of Allies supporting DACA and undocumented students.
Nice.
And I am Ana Contreras. I'm a faculty member in the English department, and at the moment, chair of the Shared Governance Committee on Diversity and Inclusion.
Cool. Well, I brought all of you together because I've met you all for the most part in different aspects at Harper in terms of my time at Harper and getting to know other people on campus and building my own community. And so when we talk about wellness, it's a lot of different areas, and one of those is sort of that social wellness, that community piece. So I thought you all will be my perfect people to talk about this topic. So thinking about that, as we talk about community, what does community mean for you all?
I can start. I was going to say community means connections that you have with people in all different places. So maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that like everyone is your best friend. Like it doesn't necessarily mean friendships, but it means more like connections that you have in different kind of parts of your life.
I agree. That's part of, to be part of the community, to be part of, to lean on each other person, to have, a friend, to somebody that can hear you, or you can bounce ideas. It could be, at work or at the gym, or other places besides the work area.
I would definitely echo what my colleagues are saying, and I think community is a place where you build support networks, or you build networks, and they might be professional, they might be personal, so friends or family, they could be academic, so just even having a community among your students or among your classmates as a way to kind of get through all the coursework together. I think those are all really good definitions of community.
Nice. And I met Kathleen and Gerardo through my group exercise class. I didn't know them, and then they came to my group exercise class and I got to know them a little bit more. And then I started taking Spanish classes with Gerardo because I wanted to learn Spanish. So it's really interesting how you sort of form communities, and you're exactly right, Kathleen. You don't have to be best friends with everyone, but it's about what does your community look like in those different spaces. So I like that definition that you used. So as you know, you have your own definition of community, but as you think about your own life experiences, how did you begin to build your own community at Harper, and or if you moved to Illinois, how did you maybe build that community for yourself?
Start this one. So I think when I came to Harper, I think I was either recently engaged or recently married, and so I just moved back to Illinois from Indianapolis, where I was working on my grad degree or finishing my grad degree. And so community really meant kind of getting to know my new in-laws, getting to know people around them. Luckily, I had a friend who lived up here who had a large group of friends. So I got to know her group of friends through community. So it really is just making those connections for me. And I think that at Harper, I kind of did the same thing. I sought out people like Kathleen and Gerardo and so many other members of our Harper community just to ask for information or to participate in various activities. So yeah, I think that's how I did that. You guys can talk now. I'm done.
Well, for me, it was, moving to Illinois from Philadelphia. So it was coming to Harper. So it was, brand new. So I didn't have anybody here in Illinois. So it was meeting people at work and my neighborhood. That's how I start creating the community that I have now, and the friendships. Some of my colleagues working with them in some programs, so connecting, with different community outside as well, with my neighbors and people that I meet in different places. So that's how I start building them. Of course, I have still my community, my connections, my friends in other areas, but that's how I start building new community.
Yeah, it's almost sort of like start with the people who are nearest to you and then you sort of like work your way out, right? So I was living in Chicago in the city when I started working at Harper, and I had lived there for, quite a few years. So I already had a lot of friends there, but then moved out here to be closer. So, sort of connecting with my neighbors and my area, the parents of other parents, like of who had kids my kids' age. And then at work, like at Harper, like the people who were like working closest to me, just like trying to do different things together. And then they sort of like introduce you to other people and things like that. Like I remember my friend Kate, she doesn't work there anymore, but she used to tell me, she used to always take me to go walk to like other buildings, like Building W, or like buildings that were like hard to get to that you didn't know where they were. And I would always tell her, it's part of my professional development to walk with you. So like sort of like make it fun also, professional development, I guess. And like also asking people for advice. That's how people like to give people like to give advice, don't you think? And recommendations. So like if you ask them like, what do you think about this or that, like it can be a good way to sort of learn something else about them. I don't know.
Which is, I like what you said too, because you talked about not only ways in which you found community, but also I think it's really important that if other people sort of come into your community, if they're new, to also do what was most helpful when you were new as well. So I think it's that reciprocation of not only benefiting from it and trying to build your own community, but putting yourself in their shoes in terms of if other people are new and what that experience is like. So thank you for sharing that. Why do you think building community is important?
Well, I think that, that's important because they support each other. There's an idea about bouncing ideas and also to be part of that you belong in a place, and also to have that type of relationships that at times are needed. I mean, especially like at this time that we just went through and we're still going through. I mean, sometimes we need that support. Sometimes, to lift out somebody or to push or to provide some moral, effort to other people. So that's sometimes it's important, they just check, like how you doing. That's, bring some smile to a person. So I mean, in times we need, human contact with general.
I definitely agree. I think community is one of those things that we do naturally just as human beings. But more than that, it's the place where I think we can become the kind of better version of ourselves sometimes, especially if we're around people who challenge us, right? Or if we're around people who support us when we need that support. Or even just around people who just let us sit in a room and be quiet. Maybe read a book with you without saying anything.
Right.
So I think that just having that feeling of having others around, right? For some people, I think it's invigorating, right? It's energizing.
Do you have anything to add to that, Kathleen?
Yeah, I think that like you can never really have enough people in your, like you can always add more people to your community. Like more is better in that case, I think, because when you have a community and you feel grateful and appreciative to them, you like invite more people in and help them grow their communities. Like you said, that sort of reciprocal idea that you're contributing and you're giving something and you're maybe getting something from it. But you also, you sort of just keep it growing. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what Gerardo touched on a little bit, and all of you in a different way, is that, they're like, we need human contact, and there are going to be times where you need people, and not that you want to build a community just for that reciprocation, but there are times when we're having a bad day and you need someone to talk to, or for me, it's, you all have knowledge in Spanish, right? So if I have a question and I'm trying to learn, hey, that's something you can give to me. And then if you have a question about fitness or, wellness, like maybe that's information I can share with you. So it's not only important, in my view, and what you all touched on is building community. We all have a bad day every once in a while where we're going to need people, but it's almost like that mutual relationship where I can provide you with something and people can usually provide me with something that I probably don't even know that they have or until it's needed. So that's, thank you for sharing. And so we've talked about building community, but as we think about our students at Harper, or even new faculty or new employees as they come to Harper and beyond, how might people, especially students, go about building community within the classroom and beyond? And that can be with their classmates, or maybe it's with their professors or supervisors, but in your own experience, how might they go about that?
Well, I mean, in my class, I would say that at times where, especially beginning courses, when they have to interact with each other, they start creating that type of community. They start relying on other students to work as a group or to go and to have an activity outside the classroom. And I really encourage them to practice in this case, their Spanish outside the classroom. And when they see other students in the halls or in other classes, to keep going in Spanish so they can create that type of community. And also, I mean, in a sense, in the classroom that, so, they belong in the college, they belong in this case in Harper, to know each other, but also to know their faculty or the professors. So that's, to get that interaction. Sometimes some students feel that they are just a number, or they are just there for a couple semesters. But really, I mean, they make a big difference. Remember the names. I mean, I remember the names of many of my students. So, I mean, that makes sense to me, that when these students are coming to classroom, to know them, to know where they are from, to know, what is important for them, because that makes a sense of who they are. If they share that with other classmates, that's how it's important, at least, in my classes.
Okay, thank you.
I wholeheartedly agree with what Gerardo is saying. I also think when we're talking about building community outside the classroom, one of the great things about Harper, and one of the great things about being, a first or second year student in college, is that there's so many opportunities to do so many different things. And sometimes you don't even know where your interests lie until you kind of explore a major, or you explore an activity. So I think, it's just as important to find community, outside of what you think might be your normal realm of comfort, right? So go and try joining the debate team, or go and try, joining, the is there a chemistry club? I think there's a chemistry club.
I think so. Sounds good.
Or the international students, because you never know what you might learn and who you might interact with. And especially when you're trying to kind of figure out what these communities are for you as a, person who's coming new to college. I think it's really valuable. And then you can also find just affinity with other people, right? That you can find those connections with other people. You never know, that person who's sitting next to you in class might be your best friend for the rest of your life, or might be, I'm not saying it happens in my classroom, but sometimes people meet in college and then they end up, as couples. I'm just saying it happens.
That's
right?
True.
So you
I
never
know,
know.
and then they named their baby Anna.
Oh, hold on. I'd be honored. I would be genuinely honored if that were done.
Yeah, I think I think that maybe for some students it does feel like a big risk to go to do a lot of these things, like to go to a club meeting, for example, especially to go by themselves, seems like a big risk. I think that they should push themselves and do it, but it's easier to say than, of course, to actually do that, right? But sometimes it means like trying more than one thing. And if you don't like it, like don't say like, oh, I'm never going to a club meeting again. Try something else, right? Or maybe like a fitness class or something, like where it's more like focused on an activity or on a, where you don't have to like necessarily talk as much. Might be an easier way than a club meeting or something like that. I think another thing for students is like just to keep in mind that to keep like a really open mind about who to be friends with. Like one of the best advice that somebody ever gave me was the importance of being friends with people of different ages. Like you shouldn't, just because someone is a lot older than you or a lot younger than you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to be friends with that person. Like, but anyway, they're going to be part of your community. So you should try to you shouldn't just like rule them out as a person or be like, I don't have anything in common with this person just because they're a different age from you. And of course that could apply to a lot of other categories too. I was thinking about when I was in fitness class, I was talking to, there's like this older retired couple that always goes, that was going, I don't know whose class it was, maybe not yours, Beth, but they were like, and I started talking to them, and the woman was a retired ESL teacher.
Wow.
Okay, just exactly my job. And I was thinking, like, you have to you might have something in common with people that you don't think you have in common with. So just to keep an open mind about that.
It's so true. It's that if you don't even start the conversation, you're not sure what you even have in common, or they might, again, going back to the reciprocation, is that maybe you're job searching in a certain field and they used to work in that area and might know someone. And so I think, to me, like, that's the exciting part, is really uncovering who they are and understanding, because you just really never know what sort of gems you might unfold from that conversation. So thank you. This goes along with what I just asked a little bit, but how might people find different ways to establish community when we are in this virtual period of time, especially?
Well,
I think you can make friends in class, maybe. Like, you could still make a friend in class, I think, if you're like having meetings online or things like that. You could still make friends and build community in class. You can hear someone's voice, I think, even through what they write online or what they say in an online class, and sort of get an idea about who that person is.
it used to be a time, my parents used to tell me about it. The online, you have this Facebook.
I think that exists still.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't around, there was a Facebook and TikTok, and now, I think people, they're creating these new online things, that it's how the people connect nowadays, Instagram. So, there's always, I'm amazed how people really, the young people, sometimes we think that they are on their own world. They are in the room, they are working, but really they are really connecting with each other. They have find all this media, and they are, they are able to know who is who and to share ideas and to, so I think, there is a way for them to communicate if they want to share ideas or to connect with other people. There's always, a way to.
And I think, as professors, you assign maybe certain things for a reason. And now that I'm taking a Spanish class, I think it's really important. You know, Gerardo assigned us to, you know, connect with people in different ways. And, you know, like people might roll their eyes at that, but I think it's been important because I've connected with someone in class, and you know, I've gotten to know her a little bit and her background, and we've connected on different, you know, ways where she's maybe looking in a different area for job searching. So I think as much as those assignments, some students might not want to do them, it really does push you into a direction to maybe meet people outside of your own bubble.
And I think some of the ways that I got through some of my most difficult classes in college and grad school and doctoral program is with study groups or study buddies, right? Where I could sit there and be like, I don't understand what this prompt means. Can you help me decipher it? And I think one of the things that we do is that we have like a back channel chat. So my class, my cohort has a Voxer chat. And so that's where like our class, our cohort will kind of chat about school stuff or talk about life things. And when we were switching from online to from face-to-face to online, that's where we did a lot of like collaborating and a lot of like sharing of ideas. So I think, so having like, you know, a back channel chat or, you know, setting yourself up with someone that you meet in class and just having a study buddy or a study group is a great way to do that in an online space. And, you know, you can't discount that Facebook, right? Or other communities. I think people will find ways to build community regardless of where we are, what we're doing. So, yeah.
To wrap it up, I'll ask each of you if you could share one or two things, a woulda, coulda, shoulda, that you wish you would have done while you're in college. What would that be?
Well, for me, I think that would be more engaging to group activities, more clubs per se, you know, to explore different areas. I mean, I belong to one or two clubs, but you know, now I think like it's more clubs that are available. I think it will be great for me to explore those clubs and because there are many things that you can learn, many activities that you can do in college. So I think that's what I regret that I didn't do when I was in college.
Yeah, I think maybe like after I made some good friends, I think I stuck with them. And I think it would have been better to like keep making new friends as opposed to just sticking with like the closest ones. So that's something that I think, you know, might apply to other people too. Like even if you have some friends, invite other people to be friends with both of you or all of you or whatever it is.
Nice.
I think I wish that I would have networked more with my professors and, you know, had, you know, invested in more academic opportunities as an undergraduate. I see the value of that now, but I wish I had seen that sooner. You know, just, you know, asking questions if I was lost or, you know, getting involved in, you know, different academic groups. So, yeah.
Nice. And I will share mine. I wish I would have studied abroad and taken advantage of some of those opportunities. And I wish I would have stuck with Spanish, but as an adult, you can still learn Spanish. So your goals and your dreams are not crushed quite. So that would be mine. So thank you. I appreciate all of you coming together, but I think it's important to hear from professors, employees on campus who have maybe a different perspective, especially as you work with students. And we are definitely in this weird, different time. So I'm, you know, looking forward to my continued work with you all. And thank you.
Thanks, Beth. That was fun.